What if Deku was the son of Mirko? Chapter 1. It was a beautiful sunny day in Japan. The cicadas synchronized their tune to each other, basking in the sunlight. An apartment building with lush green trees that surrounded it peered in the background with a plain-looking clock that stood in front of it that read 3:15. All seemed peaceful, but there was a sudden commotion that disturbed the peace on a nearby playground in the neighborhood. A 4-year-old boy with dark red spiky hair was kneeled on the ground while clutching both of his forearms, with his eyes shut tight and his tears flowing out from them. He wore a yellow collared shirt, red shorts, and had yellow shoes with white rims. He was surrounded by 3 other boys around his age. All of them stood right in front of the boy with devilish grins on their faces, ones that you would not expect from 4-year-olds. One of them had a slim frame, slanted eyes with small black pupils and squarish teeth that made up his evil grin. He had a purple ball cap that covered his brown hair and slipped down from either side of his face, and along with his hat was a shirt and pair of shoes matching the same color, and a yellow collared shirt that was unbuttoned showing his purple shirt underneath. Another boy that was there was more on the chubby side, had slitted eyes that almost appeared as if they were completely closed. He also had brown hair but slightly lighter from the first boy. He wore a white tank top with green shorts and brown sandals. The final boy had blonde spiky hair with ruby eyes. He had a dark blue shirt on with red shorts and shoes that matched the color of his shirt but with white at the ends. The blonde, who seemed to be the leader of the group, was beating on the crying child while the other 2 boys just cheered him on, as if it were just a game they were playing. Suddenly, in a white blur, something landed in between the 3 bullies and the victim, throwing up dust around the 4 boys. Oi! What the hell was that? The blonde-haired kid shouted in irritation. Before either of his goons could respond, the dust cleared up and the angry blonde got his answer. There, standing in front of them, was a dark-skinned boy with messy, white curly hair and ruby red eyes. He had elongated rabbit ears that stood up from both sides of his head, sprouting from where a normal person's ears would be. He had a white shirt with matching white shorts and red sneakers that had white rims. When the dust completely cleared, a devilish smile could be seen stretched across his face to meet his dotted, freckled cheeks. It seemed to match the ones the bullies were just wearing earlier, and it sent shivers to the 2 goons when they saw it, but the blonde only seemed to get more irritated. What the hell, Usagi? Yelled the blonde, who now fully recognized the boy in front of him. You know, Kakan, if you keep acting like this, I might think you're a villain and have to beat you up and throw you behind bars, right? Said the white-haired kid with a teasing tone in his voice, with the evil smile still on his face. This seemed to push the blonde's irritation even further. Damn it. Just because you had your quirk since birth doesn't mean you're better than me. My badass quirk is 10 times better than your stupid bunny quirk. The blonde shouted in rage towards the white-haired kid. Rabbit, actually. The white-haired kid corrected. Before the blonde got to make another remark, the white-haired kid continued. If you think your quirk is so much better than mine, then why don't we test that right here and now? He shouted in a challenging tone. The blonde's evil smile returned from this reply. Fine. I'll teach you a lesson. That I'm the strongest here at this school and not you, Usagi. Bakugo yelled back to accept the challenge. But Bakugo. That's the number 12 hero's son. Yelled the skinny boy, who sweat dripped at the idea of fighting the strongest kid in the school, or worse, hurting him and upsetting his mother. While he hasn't met her in person, he has seen her enough on TV to know that she is merciless and ruthless against all of her enemies. Shut the hell up, stick fingers. The blonde shouted back at him. I'm going to prove once and for all that I'm on the top, and no one is taking that chance from me. Now stay out of my way when I take on Usagi. The blonde shouted once again, but this time shot a cold glare at his 2 goons, who backed up in fear after Bakugo let a few small explosions pop in his hand to intimidate them. The blonde turned his head back to Usagi after making sure his goons would not interfere with his fight because they would just get in his way. You ready yet? Asked Usagi with a bored look as he tapped his foot impatiently. Hell yeah! Screamed Bakugo as he ran forward with his palms outstretched. Time seemed to slow down as Usagi got into a runner stance and breathed in as if he was meditating. Then, boom! A cloud of dust rose behind him as he launched towards Bakugo. Bakugo could barely see or even react to the oncoming white blur, but he still knew he could hit him, since all he needed to do was launch a big enough explosion to make it impossible to dodge. The nitroglycerin began to react, and a reddish/orangish glow that seemed to emit off of both of Bakugo's palms while everything was still seemingly in slow motion. The light kept getting brighter and brighter until 2 explosions burst from both of his hands, combining into one large explosion that was the biggest he could make at the time. There was no way even with Usagi's speed to move left or right because of the explosion's radius. A small smirk appeared on Bakugo's face as he realized that Usagi wouldn't be able to dodge this one and he would get hit with enough force to put him out for a bit. His smirk quickly disappeared. While everything was still seemingly in slow motion, Usagi managed to leap off of the ground a few feet into the air and somersault over Bakugo's explosion. Bakugo panicked at this and tried to reposition his hands to aim up at his oncoming attacker, but it was too late, as both of Usagi's red sneaker soles were implanted into Bakugo's face. The impact launched Bakugo back several meters until he came crashing into the ground completely unconscious and foaming from the mouth with his eyes still open, but were completely white. Usagi smiled and then looked at the goons who started to shake in their boots. "Now scram!" Usagi yelled while giving them an intimidating stare. "Why yes." Both of them replied in unison as they both picked up Bakugo, who was still unconscious with a bruise starting to form on his left cheek. They ran away as fast as they could while carrying Bakugo away from the playground. Usagi sighed. He knew Bakugo was very egotistical. Hell, Usagi was sometimes cocky himself, but he didn't think he would stoop as low as to pick on the weak. Usagi then turned towards the victim who had stopped crying but was now shaking from fear. "Hey. Are you okay?" Usagi shouted to the boy while not trying to sound too intimidating. The boy only nodded in rapid succession. "Good. But next time stand up for yourself. I'm not gonna save your ass again," Usagi said to the boy. The boy nodded again and then got up to his feet and ran away. "Well, I guess I'll go and see if mom is home today," Usagi spoke to himself as he started walking home with his arms supporting his head as he walked. Narrator: the first incident was in King City. An extraordinary child was born who radiated light. After that, reports of people with superpowers popped up all across the globe. No one knew what was causing these quirks. Before long, the supernatural became the totally normal. Dreams are reality. The world became a superhuman society, with about 80% of the population possessing some uncanny ability. Our streets look like scenes from comic books. A city swirled with chaos and confusion. A new profession dominated our collective consciousness. It was an age of heroes. A giant villain was raging in the city, uncontrollably while standing on top of a train station. He had shark-like features on his face, with brown eyes and brown hair. He wore a torn black shirt with faded jeans. Citizens were all around to inspect the scene, but they could not go any further due to the police barricading the streets. As the villain was wildly throwing his hands, he hit a power line and made the piece of metal fall towards the ground. But before it could make an impact, a man with white spiky hair, muscular frame and small eyes with tiny pupils in them suddenly rushed in as he collided his fists together, making an electric-like noise. He then proceeded to pull his fists apart and catch the power line just in time. The man was wearing a blue shirt that showed his exposed ripped chest. He had thick metal wrist gauntlets and they had a black and yellow pattern on them that looked like diagonal lines. This was also the case with the headband and belt he wore. He also had plain looking blue pants that had a white stripe on each side of his legs with regular black shoes. "Wow, it's Death Arms," one citizen yelled. "I wish I had a super strength quirk," yelled another. "Please stay back, everyone." A new hero entered the scene as he used red hoses on his hands to manipulate a stream of water to come out and block off any citizens who might get too close. He was dressed like a firefighter, sporting a long yellow jacket with high visibility lines running down the center, along with his sleeve cuffs, hem, and high collar, as well as a red fireman hat. He wore a thin water cannon strapped to his left shoulder that was connected to a red water tank on his back. He wore a white mask with a single orange bead embedded in the center, which looked like an eye. He had red ball-like guards over his kneecaps. He had yellow and blue socks with what seemed like washers that separated his socks from his yellow shoes with a blue streak through the middle. "The rescue specialist, Backdraft, is here, too," a citizen shouted. "Yeah, but isn't he basically just a fireman?" Another citizen questioned. "That villain has a crazy quirk. I wonder why he's rampaging though?" Another citizen asked. "Oh, he stole someone's purse and went berserk when he was cornered," answered the other citizen. "A quirk as destructive as that and he's just a purse snatcher." Another person hopped in. A brown blur flew over the ground near the building's rooftops and as it landed on a building near the villain everyone could see who it was. "You can do it, Kamui," shouted a bunch of fangirls from the crowd of people. Kamui Woods has a muscular build with skin made of wood. His costume is a dark blue bodysuit that includes a wooden belt, wooden knee pads, and wooden shoes. A small bundle of roses hangs from the left side of his belt. He wears a wooden mask that covers all of his face except for his eyes, and has a golden colored medal that is in the middle of his mask as well as both ends of his sleeves. Get away from me. Raw. Or I'll break you like a toothpick. The giant villain roared as he swung his arm at Kamui Woods, but missed as Kamui leapt off of the building onto another to dodge the attack. A short figure in a yellow hood moved to the front of the crowd and stood there while having the hood over their head to block out their face. An old man who is beside the hooded figure sees them and figures from their height that they're just a kid. The old man is bald, has what looks like flesh-colored stars sticking out from the sides of his face, which are probably related to his quirk. His eyes were indented, making shadowy rings around his eyes, and his pupils were nothing but small black dots. Hey kid, why are you wearing a hoodie while it's hot outside? The old man asks. But the only response the old man got was a shrug from the hooded figure, who didn't even turn to look at the old man and instead focused on the fight in front of him. The old man decided not to bother the kid anymore since it was obvious the kid didn't want to say anything for some reason. As Kamui Woods landed on another building, he began to start his ultimate attack. Assault, robbery and illegal use of powers during rush hour traffic. You are the incarnation of evil. Kamui yells at the villain right when his special move was about to be released. The hooded figure scoffs as if to cringe at such a corny line. Show us something flashy, tree man. Yelled the old man. Preemptive. Binding. Lacquered chains prison. Kamui Woods yells out his attack, but suddenly, an enormous purple foot comes from nowhere and smashes into the villain's face, and sends him crashing down into the city. Canyon Cannon. The colossal figure shouted as she used her attack. A giant, beautiful young woman showed herself. She had purple eyes with white pupils, creamy blonde hair that stretches down to her waist with two shorter strands curled to frame her face while parted slightly to her right. Her costume is composed of a purple and pale tan-colored skin-tight bodysuit, which is accented with stripes. The suit appears to have a pair of purple gloves with orange accents on the edge of the cuff. The design is similar to her boots, which are cut off at the thigh in a V shape. The suit also has 3 peculiar orange diamond-shaped dots on the purple top that are located under her chest, and she also wears a purple domino mask with horn-like protrusions on the sides. Everyone looks shocked at what just happened, especially Kamui Woods, who could only mutter "aha" to the situation. Hi, I'm Mountain Lady. Today is my debut. Pleased to meet your acquaintance. She says with a playful look on her face as she strikes a pose for the camera. Money shot. Money shot. Money shot. The paparazzi say as they take pictures of Mount Lady's pose. The crowd cheers for her, and Kamui Woods falls to his knees in defeat. While Mount Lady smiles and waves while basking in the attention. Narrator, along with the superpowers came an explosive increase in crime. As the country was stuck in the slow progress in drastic law reforms, courageous people started performing heroic acts out of comic books, guarding against superpowers and defending against evil. Heroes were soon accepted by the public, and it was established as an official position. Based on their performance, they are paid by the government and gain renown among the masses. The hooded figure turns around and begins to walk out of the crowd. Well, that was boring. They all seem like amateurs. Some of them have good quirks for fighting, but they don't seem to have too much knowledge on how to use it. I was expecting someone a little more skilled, but oh well, I suppose I could use any bit of information I could get. The hooded figure says as he walks away from the public, and takes his hood off as 2 elongated rabbit ears immediately spring up. It was 14-year-old Usagi who had a very muscular build, though it was covered with his hoodie. Well, I guess I should head to school now. My mom would kick my ass if she sees my grades go down, and Auntie Ryuki would scold me. Usagi says as he makes a dash for his school, but not to the extent that his quirk allows him to. Inside a typical-looking school called Aldera Junior High. Since you're all third years, it's time for you to think seriously about your future. I'll pass out handouts for your future plans now, but you're all pretty much planning to go into the hero course, right? The teacher says as he throws the papers into the air with a wide smile. The whole class yell out in excitement and begin to use their quirks except for Izuku, who is just resting his head on his right arm and staring out of the window in boredom, and Bakugo, who had his legs propped up on his desk and looking down in boredom as well. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks. But using your powers at school is against the rules. The teacher said, although he didn't have much of a demanding tone. Teach. Don't lump me in with these bunch of losers. These guys will be lucky to end up as some sidekick to some busted deal lister. Ha. Bakugo says, mocking his classmates. You think you're better than us, Katsuki? The class yells out in anger at Bakugo. Teach, let's go. I'll take you all on. Bakugo yelled in retaliation. Oh, if I remember correctly, you want to go to U. A. Hi, right, Bakugo? The teacher says while looking at the papers in his hands. U. A. He's trying for the national school. A student says out loud. Doesn't it have like a 0.2% acceptance rate? Another student asks out loud. It's impossible to get into. Another student yells. That's exactly why you guys are just extras. I aced the mock test. I'll go to U. A. And surpass All Might and become the #1 hero. He proudly announces as he jumps from his seat and stands on top of his desk and points to himself with his thumb as he gives a prideful grin. Oh yeah. Usagiyama is trying for U. A. as well. The teacher told the class. There was complete silence at first, even from Bakugo. Only hushed whispers were traveling around the classroom, which Izuku could hear all of them thanks to his rabbit hearing. He's definitely going to get in. Yeah. No doubt about it. Do you think he's going to be in the top 10 like his mom? Yeah, for sure. Teach. Usagi. You damn bastard. Why do you gotta ruin my plan on being the only one from this shitty school to make it into U. A. Huh? Bakugo shouts as he stomps angrily towards Izuku. All the students who were near him were frightened by the blonde's aura, but Izuku was unfazed. He just stared at Bakugo with an eyebrow raised as if to ask, really? That's what this is about. Bakugo slams his hands on Izuku's desk. Listen up, bunny boy. If you're going to U. A. with me, then you better give it your all in everything, so you can help me rise to the top. Bakugo shouted at Izuku, but not in his usual angry tone. Instead, it was filled with determination, even if Izuku was the only one who heard it because they were similar in a way and it was just easy to read him for Izuku. Izuku's ears twitched from the new nickname Bunny Boy. Well, that's a new one, he thought. Izuku looked at Bakugo straight in the eyes and gave him a challenging smile. I always try my best, Bakugo. It's you who needs to try harder. Izuku replies without breaking eye contact. They began a stare down with deranged smiles on their faces as if they were about to fight right in the middle of class. They gave off such a powerful aura that all the students and even the teacher shuddered. Okay, class. Let's get back on track. The teacher says as he gets his wits back. 12:02 p.m. The same city. In the bustling city, where shops and traffic were constantly filling the area with noises, a scream rang out from a woman nearby. Hey, get back here. A shop owner yelled as he exited his shop to try and stop the robber, but to no avail. A woman sitting down terrified after witnessing a grotesque, sludge monster just run past her, and on instinct, she activated her quirk, which produced a blue spherical shield with hexagon-like shapes that consisted of a lighter blue surrounding herself. Ha 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 ha. Yell all you want, sucker. This cash is mine. A green sludge-like villain with protruding yellow eyes with red pupils. Even with the sludge-like body, he was wearing blue jeans while running through the city on the sidewalk. Huh? There's no hero around. One citizen questioned. Normally someone would have come right away, stated another civilian. Seriously, there is no stopping them, the first civilian said. As the citizens were talking, a man walked out from a grocery store carrying some bags in his hands. He was a skinny man with sharp, angular features with long limbs and absent eyebrows. He had blue eyes that peered through his shadowed eye sockets. He had long, messy blonde hair that sprouted out everywhere from his head. He wore green cargo pants with a white t-shirt, and plain brown shoes that all seemed multiple sizes bigger than what he should be wearing. The moment the man saw the scene before him, he suddenly grew into a tall, muscular version of himself, fitting into his previously oversized clothes that made him almost seem completely opposite to what his features were before. Yes, there is. The tall, muscular man answered the first civilian, while walking towards the villain. Everyone around was shocked, but also happy that a hero came to save the day, and not just any hero. The sludge villain noticed the tall, muscular man and was immediately filled with shock and fear. 3:31 p.m. Aldera High School. School was over and everyone was exiting the classroom. Hey, want to come with us to do karaoke, Usagiyama? A girl asks Izuku. Nah, I'm going to go train. Izuku replies. But you're always training, dude. A boy points out that's right behind the girl who just asked. Yeah, well, it's fun and it relieves stress. Izuku says, annoyed that he has to always tell people off. Let's go, guys, there's no way Usagi is ever going to go with anyone. Another guy says as they all walk out. Izuku stands up from his desk and starts to put away his stuff. Suddenly his left ear twitches slightly and he ducks to be just missed by a swipe of Bakugo's hand. Damn it. Bakugo snarled. You and your damn instincts make it impossible to get the jump on you. Bakugo says while annoyed. Ha, well maybe you should practice hiding your malice. I could practically feel it from a mile away. Izuku teased. Teach. Whatever. Bakugo snarls again. So, do you want to train? Maybe this will be the time you actually beat me, Izuku said to tease Bakugo even more while holding a smug smile on his face. This made Bakugo even angrier as he started to grind his teeth. Teach. I'm not dealing with you right now. I'm heading to the arcade, he says as he stomps away angrily. He's so childish. An explosive-tempered one at that, Izuku thought. Well, calling it training was a stretch. More like he would just attack me or challenge me out of nowhere after he trained himself because he's a sore loser, and since the first time he ever lost, he's been itching to get revenge. Not that I blame him, I would probably do something similar myself. It's the one thing I admire about him. His personality may be shit, but boy does he have tenacity. Izuku thinks back on all the times Bakugo challenged him and lost. Oi Usagi. I challenge you to a rematch. A 6-year-old Bakugo yells at Izuku. Alright, but don't go crying to Auntie Mitsuki if you lose. Izuku retorted. I'll kill you. Bakugo screams as he charges at Usagi. The next moment Bakugo is laying on the ground with bruises all over his face, and Izuku is casually walking away from him. Oi Usagi. I want another rematch. Bakugo yells at Izuku again, but this time they're 7 years old, but the same result happens. Another. Bakugo yells at Izuku only a few months later from their previous fight. Another. 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 Eventually, it got to the point where he didn't even announce that he wanted a rematch and instead went in for surprise attacks out of nowhere constantly. Of course, he did get some hits on me in some of our fights, but he would still get the shit beaten out of him, and despite that he still believes in himself. Well, I would say believing in himself, but that's an understatement, but I guess it's the nicest way to put it. Izuku was lost in thought when suddenly, he heard the manhole from behind him move, and his instincts told him that something dangerous was behind him, so immediately Izuku jumped back and twisted his body around to face whatever it was while standing in a fighting stance. Hey, kid. Nice quirk. I hope you don't mind if I take it with your body. The sludge villain said with an evil grin. Izuku just responded with an evil grin himself. He wanted this. He could just run away, but he wasn't going to. He had his pride, and if his mother taught him anything, it certainly wasn't to run away from a good fight. Izuku takes off his school bag and sets it down on the sidewalk. While walking towards the villain, he moves his head to the left, creating few pops from his neck, then uses the same motion to his right. Oh. You're approaching me? You must have a death wish or something, kid. The sludge villain shouts as he widens his evil smile. Ha. I can't beat the shit out of without coming closer. And what the hell are you even supposed to be? A pile of boogers. Izuku sniffed the air and could clearly tell it smelled like sewage. You gross sewage. I didn't think it could get any grosser. Izuku taunted the villain. Damn you cocky brat. Just stay still and it might be slightly less painful. The sludge villain yelled in rage as it dove towards Izuku. Izuku jumped from the spot he was standing at and started to dart from wall to wall under the bridge while dodging the sludge villain's attacks. He began to carefully analyze the situation he was in. Izuku's thoughts: his entire body is made of sludge, so my only options are to hit the parts of them that aren't sludge and make him pass out from the pain, or hit him with enough force to blow him apart so that he cannot keep his form up. Izuku smirked as he made his decision. I'll take the latter. Izuku then began to get faster and faster as he used his fluent body motion to increase his momentum with each jump. Soon Izuku was starting to bounce around under the bridge, so fast that he was only an afterimage and the sludge villain no longer had any idea on where to attack, so he started to flail his tendrils everywhere in a futile effort to hit the boy. Just let me hit you already. The sludge villain screamed while not being able to do anything against his target. The rabbit boy put on his mom's signature, predatorial smile because he was enjoying the rush he was getting from fighting a real villain. His feet began to leave imprints in the concrete that he jumped off of. He was now shooting like a missile as he began to strike the sludge villain with kicks that would be fatal without the sludge villain's quirk. Each strike was precise and calculated as he tore through the green muck at blinding speed, sending any area he hit splattering into the wall. After a few seconds, there was much less of the sludge villain's main body and Izuku decided to end it. He then barreled towards the sludge villain and lifted up his right leg. Lunar arc. Izuku shouted as he delivered a devastating axe kick into the center of the sludge villain. What? The sludge villain shouted in surprise as the air pressure from the kick made the sludge villain's body blow apart into pieces. Izuku stopped hopping around and dusted any sludge off of his clothes. Suddenly, the manhole burst from the ground and a mighty figure appeared in front of Izuku. It was the tall, muscular blonde man who was chasing the sludge villain earlier. Izuku jumped back in surprise, not because he was spooked by the sudden arrival since he heard somebody was coming out, but because it was the symbol of peace, All Might. It's all right now. Why? Because I am here? All Might looks surprised at the scene in front of him. A young boy with rabbit ears and ruby eyes with an unconscious villain next to him, and it's the one he was chasing. Did you do this, young man? All Might asks the young boy. Yeah, I did, Izuku replied. Wow. I'm impressed. Although you're not supposed to use your quirk in public, I'll let this one slide since you were defending yourself. All Might says with his booming voice and signature smile. Although Izuku wasn't a hero fanboy or anything like that, he was still excited to see All Might since he regarded him as one of the few heroes who could actually beat his mother in a fight. Do you mind helping me, young man? All Might asks as he begins to scoop up the sludge at very fast speeds that Izuku could barely keep up. Once they were done, All Might looks at the young boy with a confused look on his face. What is it, All Might? Asked Izuku, who was now equally confused about All Might's expression. Oh, nothing, young man. It just feels like I've seen you from somewhere before. All Might explains. Oh. Izuku says as he begins to laugh out loud. What's so funny? All Might raises an eyebrow in concern. Oh, it's just that. You must be thinking of my mother, Izuku explains to All Might. And may I ask who your mother is? All Might asked as his curiosity piqued. Rumi Usagiyama, or Mirko, the rabbit hero, Izuku said with pride etched in his voice. Ooh. So, you're her son. I've never actually met your mother, but I've heard she's a great hero. And I'm sure that you can become one too. All Might said with a smile on his face. Suddenly a small plume of smoke started emitting from his face. Shit. All Might cursed internally. Well, it's been nice meeting you, young Usagiyama. I need to leave and put this guy behind bars. All Might says as he pats the soda bottles inside his pockets that are now filled with sludge. Izuku nods and then All Might jumps away. Izuku whistles at the height of All Might's jump. That's pretty impressive. I wonder if Mom is capable of jumping that high. He asks himself as he begins to leave for home once again. End of chapter 1.